Welcome back to the Mobalytics 9.23 update and Q&A video. I'm your challenger coach, Adam Moriarty-Isles, here to take you through all the changes and questions you had. As a disclaimer though, I'd like to mention that we only update the low-elo list as of right now, as the high-elo one wouldn't really have a big enough data set to make an update worthwhile at this point in time. So without any more delays, let's jump right into the update. Starting off in the top lane, our S-tier roster is going to be Garen, Malphite, Dr. Mundo, Yorick, Mordekaiser, and new additions Urgot and Kled. The preseason at the moment is very much dominated by Conqueror users who take Domination secondary for even more healing so that they can clutch out fights even easier. So who better to counter this kind of flavor of the month setup than a champion with built-in healing reduction, easy snowball potential, and one of the best engage tools in the game? That's right, it's gotta be Kled, which is why we moved him from A to S tier for this patch. If you want to pick up Kled for that easy money for his build, I recommend going a pretty standard bruiser route with Tiamat and a Black Cleaver with a Sterox Gauge. You can follow that up with a Titanic Hydra and GA later on into the game, or feel free to add in an early Sanguini Blade if you're snowballing and plan to split push. For his runes, Conqueror and Last Stand is a must, but for his secondary, there are many options depending on the matchup. But the staple and most consistent one is definitely Resolve for that Demolish and Bone Plating. I know it's the more boring option, but it just works, alright? That means you're gonna want to pick up Kled if you like bruisers, don't know the meaning of the word retreat, and don't want to, or know how to peel instead of diving in. Our other important change will be moving Urgot from A tier to S tier, as he is a staple lane bully in the top lane at lower MMRs, who can consistently and easily win lane while having a strong mid game for dragon fights, which is shown by his fantastic 53% win rate in this bracket. You're gonna want to pick up Urgot if you like bullying melee champions with little mechanical skill needed. Our last change will be adding Darius to A tier from off the list, because I'm gonna be honest here, he got lost in the shuffle when we redid the whole tier list, and I apologize for any confusion this may have caused. Moving down to the jungle, our starting S tier roster will be Warwick, Nocturne, Vi, Dr. Mundo, Master Yeezy, Volibear, Nunu, Echo, and Shaco. Our first change to the list will be moving Olaf from B tier to A tier, which is actually pretty impressive for him. In the past, I've mentioned how poorly he does at lower levels of play because of his horrific scaling, which just further reinforces how important early dragon control is in the current meta, which is actually one of Olaf's specialties. For his build, Jungle Olaf will start Machete into Skirmishers into Warrior Enchantment. None of that dumb Cinderhawk stuff, alright? You see it in competitive all the time, but this is solo queue, alright? If you're picking Olaf, build some damage, otherwise just stick to Nunu. To continue your core items, go into Black Cleaver GA, adding in things like Spirit Visage Maw or Sterox whenever needed, but not both, okay? Not both. I swear I lose a piece of my sanity every time I see the Lifeline unique passive stacked. It happens even in Diamond Plus. It's ridiculous. For his runes, you're gonna want to go Conqueror Last Stand, as they're pretty key, with some people experimenting with Water Walking Nimbus Cloak secondary, which seems solid to me in theory, but I still prefer Inspiration secondary for free boots and approach velocity. Make sure to pick up Olaf if you like early, high-tempo aggro junglers who can outduel any player or dragon easily. Added bonus, if you're someone who likes to FF post 30 minutes, as your team is more likely to hit yes knowing that they're playing 4v5s, cause you know, you picked Olaf. That makes it so that our last change to the jungle list is going to be moving Trundle from B tier to A tier. Alright, so Trundle is a champion that jumps in and out of the meta based purely on if there are enough tanks in the meta that he can just get some free wins off of, alright? Currently, I definitely recommend picking up Trundle as a solid counter pick if you see the enemy team lock in a bunch of tanks like Leona, Malphite, or even Rammus. But I would stay away from maining him, as he has some awful matchups into some of the top tier jungle champions like Nidalee, Kindred, or even Echo. Next up, our starting mid lane S tier roster will be Diana, Malzahar, Nocturne, Fizz, Heimerdinger, Echo, and newcomer Mordekaiser. Just like in the top lane, Mordekaiser is one of the mages who is abusing the updated Conqueror the most out of almost any champion in the game, and his win rate reflects that, as it's an absurd 55% win rate in the mid lane with a 14% ban rate, easily allowing him to reach S tier. The most astonishing thing though is that his pick rate is only 1%, despite how crazy strong he is, meaning if you decide to pick him up, as long as the enemy team didn't ban him, he will almost never be picked away from you. If you're curious, the reason he does so well in the mid lane at the moment is that he has amazing wave priority, pushing power, and most importantly, does not need to know how to dodge ganks. I repeat, you don't need to know about wave control, you don't need to know about jungle tracking, because all you're gonna do is just 1v2 to gank due to your excessive healing combined with your ultimate. For his build, it's pretty much the same as top lane. though your core will be Protobelt Rally's Leandries more often than not, as you need the extra wave clear mobility to catch up to ranged champions and mages, which are more common in the mid lane. For the runes, we all know it, but I'm gonna say it anyways. It's Conqueror with Domination Secondary for Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. I highly recommend you pick up this champion though ASAP if you want to climb, as he has so much value being a low pick range champion who can be played in both solo lanes. It's just such a solid investment for anyone who likes to play bruisers or just wants to crush Yasuo Zed players and laugh as they die in the Shadow Realm. I'm sorry Yasuo, there's no minions in the Shadow Realm, you can't dance around like an idiot, you just die. That aside, we do have some other changes to the list. That being said, our first one will be, speak of the devil, Yasuo dropping from S tier to A tier. At the beginning of the patch, he was doing extremely well due to the new crit cloak catching people off guard with how quickly he reached 100% crit chance. Now people have more or less adjusted to it, so we're dropping him down to compensate. Next up, Katarina is a champion that demolished every single bracket above plat, but her win rate just dropped by 2 or 3% at gold and below, so we moved her down from S tier to A tier to compensate for this massive drop, now that we have a little bit more data on her. For the bot lane, our starting S tier roster will be Jinx, Jhin, Senna, Ashe, Caitlyn, Heimerdinger, Yasuo, and new addition, Misfortune. Misfortune was becoming an extremely popular pick near the end of Season 9 thanks to her crit build combined with Kleptomancy to help her ramp up faster. Unfortunately, with Kleptomancy sent to the Shadow Realm, many people gave up on MF during the preseason, but she's in fact still incredibly strong due to the meta suiting her extremely well. She is both strong in lane while also having a teamfight ultimate able to completely annihilate around the Dragon Pit, making her strong enough to reach S tier. For her build, you're gonna want to pick up 3 Doran's Blades early on. This might sound kinda troll, I know, but it pretty much means you can't lose lane, so just do it. For your core items, you're gonna want to go Essence Reaver into Infinity Edge followed by a Zeal item, most commonly Rapid Fire Cannon when you need more DPS, but Phantom Dancer if you're getting Dovil out, while your Leona support dives the enemy ADC instead of peeling for you even though you're more fed than they are. As for the runes, instead of Kleptomancy, you're gonna take Press the Attack, as she can proc it quite easily with just Auto Q Auto. I know Misfortune mains don't like to auto attack that much, but trust me, it's worth it when you take Press the Attack. As for her secondary rune options, take Inspiration for free boots and biscuits. Make sure to pick up Misfortune if you like LP but don't like working too hard for it, or if you're just autofilled. We do have some other changes to the tier list for AD carry, with Tristana moving from B tier to A tier thanks to her new Stormrazor first build, allowing her to snowball and get more picks on her own a lot easier. This, unfortunately, is unlike Kai'Sa, who despite her new Stormrazor build will be moving down from S tier to A tier on the High-ELO list. Kai'Sa is a versatile champion with many build options, so choosing the correct one is extremely important for gaining as many wins on her as possible. This in turn means that less experienced Kai'Sa players will easily drag down the overall win rate of the champion, since they probably aren't going to be choosing the optimal build, and she's an extremely popular champion kind of like Ezreal. This means that judging her power just off of her win rate is extremely difficult, but after talking to some High-ELO ADC mains as well as some offhand comments from ADCs on stream like Doublelift, the common consensus is that she is weaker in Season 10 compared to Season 9, and that means we will be moving her down accordingly on the High-ELO list. For the support tier list, our starting S tier roster will be Janna, Brand, Leona, Nautilus, Zyra, Shaco, and newcomer Soraka. Senna, as I've mentioned in other videos, is one of the most contested picks in the game currently, but in the support role, she only has a 51.23% win rate to go along with her insane 19% play rate. Since she is new, this is a pretty decent win rate, and we expected it to climb over time, which is why we initially placed her in S tier. But with the incoming nerfs, we believe it will take her and the player base a longer period of time for her to reach her S tier status, so we dropped her down to A tier for now. That's gonna leave us with Soraka moving from A tier to S tier to take her place. I'm not gonna lie, when Will told me about this suggested change to the tier list, I was like, Pickle, what are you doing? I don't know about this one. Then I double checked the stats and I was like, okay, Pickle, I'm sorry for downing you. Soraka is currently doing extremely well with a 53% win rate, and the reason for it is her ability to impact early dragon fights combined with a new core item. For her build, you're gonna want to go Redemption into Ardent Censer followed by the new and improved Shurilia's Reverie, which is a perfect item for Soraka. It gives her a powerful teamfight active along with more healing, shielding power, survivability. It's just awesome for her overall. Rune wise, she's still pretty basic. You're still gonna go Airy Primary along with Resolve Secondary for Bone Plating and Revitalize to help her and her teammates survive all ins. Don't forget to pick up Banana Unicorn Girl if you like an enchanter who can play a little aggro in the laning phase but still scale into a teamfight monster who makes many assassin players cry at night due to her silence and ultimate. Our first Q&A question comes from Fulvio Lorenzo on YouTube, who asks, so the meta is being dictated by Dragons, Conqueror, Stormrazor, and Sanguine Blade, question mark? Short answer, yes. Many of the strongest champions in the current preseason are Conqueror or Stormrazor users who are using their newfound early to mid-game strengths to snowball their advantages to just get more dragons. The dragon buffs themselves aren't super strong, unless you get like 4 of them or something like that, but the Dragon Soul is. No matter which one you get, it can be considered more game-changing than a Baron buff, as the stats are permanent, allowing you to easily win an incoming Elder Dragon fight. I'm not gonna lie, I don't always see the Elder Dragon buff in my games, but when I do, it's not for very long because the game ends pretty shortly afterwards. As for Sanguini Blade, post hotfix, it's still pretty strong, but not as meta-defining as Conqueror with Domination Secondary Trend or the importance of Dragon Control, so that's why I didn't focus too much on it. It's still really good, but not as meta-defining. The next question will be from Instagram from Tomas Delalic09, who asked, what's your thoughts on Omnistone and what champions does it work best on? So, I'm gonna be real with you, I've tested this rune out on a lot of champions personally, and still really haven't found one where it excels over other keystone options. It's not that it's super bad, but it's not really better than a champion's current options. For example, I tried it out on my favorite champion, Twisted Fate, as he currently runs Spellbook and can use all of the Omnistone keystones fairly well. My issue with it though is when you compare it to Spellbook, where you get to choose what you take when you want, the disadvantage of Omnistone is really clear. If Omnistone worked a little bit more like Spellbook, even if it only gave you 3 options to choose from at a time, I think it would be way better than its current version. But that means for now, I really don't recommend you take it on anyone until more testing is done. I did hear from a rioter though that you can manipulate its RNG based on things like enemy HP levels or how far away you are from them, but it still seems way too inconsistent for me to recommend. Even if the RNG manipulation techniques are mastered, I just don't see it. Now, I'm still open to the rune, so if anyone can post in the comment section a setup that they think works really well, I'll try it out myself and get back to you on it. Our next Instagram question comes from Owen McNeil 10, who asked, is Evelynn just not good anymore? Why is she not on the list? As some of you may know, Evelynn has been my go-to jungle champion for some time, and I've reached Challenger many times over the years while maining her, so I feel pretty qualified to speak on her current strength. And when I say she feels worse in Season 10, she definitely feels worse in Season 10. You can see it from her stats at a glance as well, as she currently holds a 47.53% win rate, which is the lowest it's been in a super long time, and it has to do with the Season 10 jungle changes. The jungle champions that excel currently are ones that have early dragon control, which Eve doesn't really have, champions who can invade easily, which Eve definitely cannot do, and champions who can farm well, which Eve is actually decent at, but not as good as she used to be. The core issue though is the lack of invade/dragon potential. When combined with the removal of catch-up XP, that means if Eve falls behind due to waiting too long on ganks or being invaded, she ends up massively behind, and she just has no way to come back into a game when she's leveled behind, so she's just a liability if she doesn't snowball, which she doesn't have a reliable way to do so at the moment. Don't get me wrong, I love the champion a lot, but even I'm practicing a different jungler her first pick, which I haven't done in years because that's how poorly she's doing in Season 10. It just breaks my heart. Every tier list I'm like, can we look at Evelynn's win rate? Can we put her back in? And every time I'm just shut down. She's just doing that bad. This makes Gone All Around the World our last Instagram question, as he asked, how is Xayah not S tier? Well, looking at the stats at pretty much every bracket, she sits at around a 48% win rate. This is of course doesn't exactly track a champion's strength, but for a champion like Xayah, who is popular and not extremely difficult, it is pretty telling. Aside from that though, one of the main reasons is her lack of early dragon fight potential, which as we all know is one of the most important skills a champion can have during the preseason. Now, it's not so much that she's bad at it, but more so that she's only average. She's not amazing on one item, she does provide some CC and some burst damage, but her ultimate CD is super long in the early game, making it so that she often doesn't have it up for every important fight. Xayah mostly comes online at 3 items, where she can easily burst people down and self-peel in every fight with the reduced ultimate CD. It's just that currently she can't achieve that state of power fast enough to have more impact than insane utility champions and early game damage champions like Jhin, Ashe, Senna, or even Heimer for example. Sometimes it's not about the champion being weak, it's about other champions just simply being stronger. That makes it to that our last question comes from Law and Z on Discord, who asked, all of these tier lists from apps similar to Mobalytics are different to each other, and I can't decide which to follow. I don't want to waste time learning champions that aren't actually any good. Can someone explain what the difference between all of these tier lists are, and how can I determine which champions are actually good from all of them? This is actually an extremely good question, and though it is difficult for me to remain impartial on it, I will do my best to give an accurate answer. The easy solution to your problem is to just cross-reference every list to see which champions have common placements on each list. If every list has Jinx in S tier, for example, then it's safe to assume that Jinx is an optimal pick in the current meta. Now, of course, the issue with this strategy is that you will often run into a lower pool of pickable proven champions that every list agrees on, and they will also likely be highly contested picks in terms of pick to ban ratio, making them harder to learn as they will just be less available. So even though this strategy can work for a small handful of champions, you still likely want to choose a primary list to follow to find more hidden gems, so to speak. I'm not going to speak on behalf of the other list accuracies, but for our own list here at Mobalytics, I'd like to think that our system works the best, as we have our own internal data and formulas to come up with the strength of the champions, and then the list is readjusted once again by our Pen 06 experts ranging from around Diamond to Challenger. Our list is also made to help users climb rather than just stating what is strong. It's going to tell you what exactly is going to help you get to what LP range you want to get to, and it isn't swayed by public perception of the champion's strength. For example, if everyone says Vlad is the most overpowered champion in the game, if the stats don't back that up, we're not going to tell you that, alright? We're going to tell you the truth every time. Okay, so I did say I'd stay impartial, but to be honest, I'd say our tier list is the best one to follow, or else, honestly, I wouldn't be working here or putting in so much effort into it along with the rest of the team. Thanks for watching our tier list update and Q&A video for patch 9.23, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, or go to our Discord server in the link provided where you can ping me in our tier list discussion channel. Don't forget to try out Mobalytics today on mobalytics.gg, and I'll see you summoners out on the Rift.